New York was wearing its Christmas dress, all sparkling lights and heavy white snow. From the VIP room at Tre Couronne, 3 floors up, the city looked peaceful, like a greeting card, but I knew better. Down on the streets, the snow was turning to gray slush, and the cold had teeth. I'm Luca Romano, 38 years old, on paper. I own one of the largest logistics and transport companies on the East Coast. The legit part is true, but the docs don't just run on paperwork, they run on history. And my family's history is written in blood. I've been trying to reform, as my sister calls it, trying to scrub the stain off the family name. My older brother, Angelo, wanted that. He wanted legitimacy. And 3 weeks ago, that desire got him removed in what the papers called a tragic accident, but what I call an internal dispute. His chair at the head of the table is empty, and the cold that settled in my chest that day hasn't left. And that is why I was here. My sister, Isabella. She's worried about me. She thinks I'm drowning in the past, lost in the grief for Angelo. She thinks I need normalcy. So, she arranged this, a blind date, on Christmas Eve, of all the damn nights. She's nice. Luca, Isabella had pleaded. She's from a good family. Just go, for me. Please, just try to be human for one night. So I went. I sat in the elevated booth of my own restaurant, a place bought through 2 shell companies, and I waited. My men were here, of course. Sal, trying to look casual by the main door, built like a refrigerator but wearing a polite blazer. Marco, downstairs, checking coats and faces. I sat facing the door. You can try to reform, but you never stop sitting with your back to the wall. I checked my watch. 7:45. She was supposed to be here at 7. I signaled for another old-fashioned. The ice in the last one was long gone. I hated being here. I should have been at the docks. Angelo's accounts were a mess, and I knew Marco Vitelli was already sniffing around, sensing weakness. 8 o'clock, 8:15. I was done. This was insulting. I was about to signal Sal that we were leaving when the hostess at the VIP stand looked up, flustered. A woman had just walked past her, brushing snow from her shoulders. She did not belong here. This room was designed for silence and money. The carpet was thick enough to swallow a shoe. The woman who just entered looked like she had run a marathon in a blizzard. Her dark hair was damp and stuck to her cheeks. Her coat was just a coat, not a statement. She looked cold and frantic and completely out of place. I assumed she was Isabella's nice girl. My sister's taste was getting desperate. The woman scanned the room, her eyes wide. This section was empty, except for me. She clutched the strap of her purse and walked toward my table. I gave Sal the slightest shake of my head. Stand down. She stopped a few feet away, breathing hard. Are you Luca? She asked. Her voice was thin, nervous. I just stared. This was a mistake, but I was bored, and Angelo was gone. What did it matter? I am, I said. The relief that washed over her face was palpable. Oh, thank God. I'm so sorry. I'm Elena Carter. She practically fell into the chair opposite me. You have every right to be angry. I am almost an hour late. First, my old car wouldn't start. The battery, I think. Then the BQE was a parking lot. And my son, Jamie. My sitter was late getting there. And Jamie has a fever. Just a small one, just over 99. But you know how it is. I couldn't just leave him until she got there. And she was rambling. It was real. There was no performance in it. She wasn't trying to sound fashionably late. She was genuinely mortified. You're here now, I said. Breathe. A waiter appeared, silent as a shadow. Oh, she said, looking at the menu like it was written in a foreign language. Just a water, please? I watched her. Isabella had said, good family. This woman looked like she was counting every penny to pay the sitter. She was 29, according to the outline, but she looked older in her exhaustion and younger in her sincerity. So, she said, folding her hands on the table, trying to compose herself. My friend Sarah, the one who set this up, she told me you work in shipping. I froze. My friend Sarah, not Isabella. I processed the information instantly. My sister had set me up on a blind date. This woman's friend. Sarah had set her up on a blind date, at the same restaurant, on the same night. And this woman, Elena, running late and frantic, had walked into the wrong room, found the only man sitting alone, and assumed I was her nice guy. The real nice guy, some accountant named Dave or something, was probably sitting downstairs at table 10, finishing his second beer and checking his phone. This was a mix-up, a pure statistical accident, and in that moment, I realized something else, something heavy. She had no idea who I am. When women in my world look at me, they see Romano. They see the docks. They see the power, the money, the whispers. They see the danger, and they're either terrified of it or attracted to it. Elena Carter looked at me and saw Luca, the guy her friend set her up with. This had not happened to me in 15 years. I had a choice. I could tell her. I could end this. Send her downstairs to find her accountant, or logistics. I said, my voice was rough. It's a family business. We move things. It wasn't a lie. That sounds stable, she said, smiling. It was the first real smile, and it changed her face. It wiped away the exhaustion. I found myself leaning forward. You said you have a son, Jamie. She lit up. It was like turning on every light in the city at once. Yes, he's 6. He's my whole world. He's brilliant. He loves dinosaurs and knows all their names, even the ones I can't pronounce. He's starting 1st grade next year. She talked. I listened. Luca Romano, whose day was spent managing capos and diffusing a potential war over territory on the Hudson, was listening to a 3rd grade teacher talk about her 6-year-old. She told me about her job teaching in the Bronx, the lack of supplies, the kids who came to school hungry. She talked about her tiny apartment and the leak in the ceiling. She spoke about her life not as a tragedy, but as a challenge. And then she said something that hit me harder than a punch. It's hard, she admitted, looking down at her water. Being a single mom, teaching sometimes the city feels so cold, but I have to believe in the good. You know, I have to believe that people are, at their core, kind. That they're trying their best. That's the only way to get through it. Kindness. I almost laughed. Kindness was a liability. Kindness was a weakness. Kindness is what got Angelo killed. He believed in kindness. He believed our rivals would see his reform as a sign of peace, not an opportunity. I looked at this woman. She was living on fumes, teaching in a forgotten part of the city, raising a kid alone, and she still believed in kindness. She was talking about a world I had never lived in, a world I didn't think existed. She was naive. She was in the den of the lion, thinking he was a house cat, and the lion was listening. The sharp, Arctic ice around my heart, the one that had been there for 3 weeks, didn't melt, but it felt different. You're late, I said, my voice softer than I intended. She winced. I know, I am so... But you still came. I cut her off. Your car broke down. The snow, your son is sick. You still came. Well, she shrugged. I promised my friend I would try, and I guess I hoped it would be worth it. I looked at her, really looked at her, the damp hair, the earnest eyes, the hands that were probably red and chapped from the cold. She had no idea who I was. She was talking to me like I was just a man. And for the first time since Angelo died, for the first time in maybe a decade, I wanted to be this accidental blind date, this collision of 2 worlds that should never have touched. It was the first real thing I had felt all year. The waiter refilled my water. Elena hadn't touched hers. She was too busy painting a picture of a life so different from mine. It felt like a different century. The problem is the budget, she was saying, her hands moving as she spoke, the initial shyness completely gone. They say there's no money for art supplies. But how do you tell a 7-year-old he can't paint, that his ideas aren't worth the $1.50 for a new brush? So I end up spending my own money. It's fine, mostly. But then the car breaks down. She laughed, a short, breathless sound. And then the car always breaks down. I watched the light catch the strands of her dark hair. She wasn't asking for pity. She was just stating facts. It was the same way I'd state that a container shipment was delayed at the port, a problem to be solved. You believe in kindness, I said, repeating her words from earlier. But this city, This world, it hasn't been very kind to you." She paused, considering it. "I don't think kindness is about getting things. It's not transactional. It's about what you choose to be. If I let the hardness of it all make me hard, then what am I teaching Jamie? I have to believe there's good. Otherwise, what's the point?" What's the point? I'd been asking myself that every morning since Angelo's funeral. My brother believed in good. He believed in reform. He thought he could turn a century of blood into a legitimate business just by signing papers. And now he was in a marble box in Queens. This woman, Elena, was tougher than any soldier I had. She was fighting a war every day with no armor, armed with nothing but 99-cent paintbrushes and hope. She was the purest thing I had seen in my adult life, and she was sitting right across from me. She glanced at her phone, and her face dropped. "Oh my God, it's almost 10, I have to go. The sitter, Jamie's fever, I'm so sorry. I completely lost track of time." She grabbed her coat, her movements jerky and apologetic again. This was really nice. "Luca, thank you for not, being upset that I was so late." "I wasn't upset," I said. It was the truest thing I'd said all night. I walked her to the private elevator. "Drive safe." "Oh," she said. "My car's not here. It's dead, a few blocks away." "I'm just going to take the subway." I didn't like that. Not one bit. "Let my driver take you." "No, I couldn't. It's fine. The station is right there." "Really?" She smiled. That exhausted, brilliant smile. "Good night, Luca." And she was gone. I went back to the booth, not to sit, but to stand by the window. It overlooked the avenue. The snow was falling heavier now. Fat, wet flakes. I saw her emerge from the building, pulling her thin coat tight, head down against the wind. Sal materialized at my elbow. "Boss, just watching," I said, and then I saw them, and Sal saw them. 2 men. They had been leaning against a bodega across the street. They weren't dressed for the weather. Thin jackets, watching the entrance to Tre Caron. When Elena came out, they perked up. And when she started walking toward the subway entrance, they pushed off the wall and started to follow. My blood turned to ice. They weren't muggers. Muggers look for a score. These men were looking for something. Or someone. They were scouts. I recognized the posture, the casual but not casual way they moved. They were Vitellis. They must have been watching the restaurant. Watching me. They saw a woman leave my private table, alone, on Christmas Eve. And now they were going to see who she was. "Damn it," I whispered. "Stay here, Sal. Keep the car running. Call Marco. Tell him I'm on foot." I didn't wait for the elevator. I took the stairs, 2 at a time, moving faster than I had in years. I hit the lobby, grabbed my overcoat from a terrified-looking coat check girl, and shoved through the main doors. The cold hit me like a slap. Elena was half a block ahead, almost at the corner. The 2 men were 20 yards behind her, closing the distance. I ran. I didn't call her name. I just moved, cutting the angle. My leather shoes sliding on the packed snow. I got to the corner just as she did. "Elena!" She spun around, startled. "Luca, what?" The 2 men stopped. 10 feet away, they saw her. They saw me, and they recognized me. Their faces went from predatory to pale in a split second. "You're lost, gentlemen," I said. My voice was low. It was the voice I used at the docks, not the one I'd used in the restaurant. Elena looked from me to them, her mind not yet catching up. "What's happening?" The taller one, trying to find his courage, puffed out his chest. "We're just walking here, pal. It's a free country." "This isn't your street," I said, "and she's not your business. Turn around." The shorter one nudged his friend. "Hey, that's Romano. That's Luca Romano." The taller one's face went white. He knew the name. He knew what it meant. But he was also terrified of reporting failure. He made a stupid choice. He reached inside his jacket. I didn't wait. I moved in. I was never a brawler. Angelo was the brawler. I was the strategist. But I was also fast. I grabbed the man's wrist, twisting it hard until I heard a pop. He screamed. I slammed him against the frozen brick wall of a closed bakery. His friend pulled a small blade. I shoved the first man into the second, and as they stumbled, I moved. I didn't want to hurt them. Not really. I just wanted them gone. but my coat flew open, and Elena saw it. She wasn't looking at them. She was looking at me, at the custom-made black leather shoulder holster strapped against my chest, at the dull steel grip of the pistol settled beneath my arm. She made a sound, a tiny, broken gasp. The two men saw their opening. They scrambled to their feet, terror winning out, and they ran, slipping and sliding back down the street. I turned back to Elena. I pulled my coat closed, but it was too late. She was pressed against the wall, her eyes wide, staring at the place where the gun had been. "You have a gun," she whispered. The snow was catching in her hair. She was trembling. "Elena, listen to me. Who were those men? Why did they, Luca? Who are you?" I couldn't lie. "Not now. My name is Luca, and I told you. I'm in logistics." I took a step toward her. She flinched. "But it's complicated. I used to be involved in some dangerous things. Things I'm trying to leave behind." "Leave behind," she repeated, her voice shaking. "That didn't look like left behind. You had a gun. I was protecting you," I said, my voice harsh. "They were following you." "Following me? Why?" "Because you were with me." The words hung in the frozen air. I saw the calculation in her eyes, the terror, the pieces clicking into place. This wasn't a nice guy from a shipping company. This was something else. This was the world she read about in the papers, the world that decent people stayed away from. My car, a black armored sedan, pulled silently to the curb. Sal got out. He didn't look at her. He just looked at me. "Boss, all clear." Elena looked at the car, at Sal, at me. "Boss," she whispered. "Get in." "Elena." I said, "I'm taking you home." She shook her head. No, I'll take the subway." "You will not," I said. It wasn't a request. I opened the back door. "You're not safe. Get in the car." She was trapped, afraid of me, but more afraid of what was out here. She got in. The ride to the Bronx was the longest 15 minutes of my life. The car was silent. I could hear her breathing, fast and shallow. I told Sal the address she'd mentioned, and he just nodded. We pulled up in front of a 5-story walk-up. The Christmas lights on the railing were half dead. She fumbled with the door handle. "Elena," I said. She stopped, but she wouldn't look at me. "I'm trying to get out," I said. "What I told you about my brother, it was true, but the past, it doesn't let go easily." She finally turned. Her face was pale, but her eyes were steady and filled with a profound, aching disappointment. "Thank you for the ride, Luca, and for whatever that was. But I can't. I'm a mother. My son is all I have. I can't have guns and men in black cars in my life. I can't see you again." She got out and ran into the building without looking back. I watched her go. I watched the light come on in a 3rd-floor window. "Sal," I said. "Boss, find out who those two were. I want their names, and I want to know who sent them, and put a car on this building. 2 men, around the clock. I don't want them seen. Not by her, not by anyone." "Vitelli," Sal asked. "Who else?" For 3 days, I waited. Christmas came and went. A hollow, silent day. Sal reported back. The men were Vitelli's, just as I'd thought, and they had a car, a black sedan, parked 2 blocks from Elena's apartment. They were watching her. Vitelli wasn't just testing me. He'd found his leverage. He'd found the good, pure thing, and he was going to use it to get to me. I couldn't protect her from a distance. I couldn't protect her with a lie. She was in danger because of me, and she didn't even know it. I had to tell her. All of it. I went to her school, and it was after hours. The lights were off, but I saw her car, the old, beaten-up sedan, parked out front. My men had fixed it. A Christmas miracle from an anonymous donor. I found her in her classroom, cleaning paintbrushes in a small sink. She froze when she saw me in the doorway. "Luca, I told you. My name," I said, cutting her off, "is Luca Romano. And my family doesn't just work at the docks. We are the docks. The parts that people whisper about. My brother was Angelo Romano. Maybe you read about him. He was removed because he wanted to make the family legitimate. I'm his successor. And the men who want to take what's left of my business, they saw you with me." Her hand, wet with paint, went to her mouth. "You lied to me." "I didn't lie," I said, walking slowly into the room. It smelled like chalk and cheap soap. I didn't tell you the truth. At first, it was a mistake. Then it was nice to just be Luca, the logistics guy. I stopped a few feet from her. They are watching you. Elena, right now. They have a car down the street. They think you are my weakness. They think they can use you to get to me. I'm here to tell you the truth, because I can't protect you unless you know what you're being protected from. She stared at me. The anger was there, the betrayal. But I saw something else, too. The same look from the restaurant. She wasn't just looking at the monster. She was looking at the man. She saw the grief for Angelo. She saw the man who had sat and listened to her talk about her son. "You're one of them," she whispered. "The Mafia." "I was," I said. "I'm trying not to be. But they won't let me go." Her whole body was trembling, caught between running for her life and an insane curiosity. "What?" she said, her voice barely audible. "Do you want from me?" "I want you to let me keep you safe." I said, "You and Jamie." And there it was. The bond, not of romance, not yet, but of something far more dangerous. A secret, a connection, a collision of two worlds that were now terrifyingly stuck together. Elena didn't run. She stood there by the small sink, her knuckles white on the porcelain, the colorful, dirty water swirling down the drain. She just stared at me, her eyes tracing the lines of my face as if seeing me for the first time, trying to find the monster in the man she'd shared a meal with. "So, the men," she finally whispered. "The ones following me, they work for your rival, Marco Vitelli," I said. The name tasted like ash in my mouth. "He and my brother, they had different visions for the future. Angelo wanted clean books. Marco preferred the old ways. He won the argument. I left the rest unsaid. The bullet, the funeral, the empty chair. And he thinks I'm your girlfriend." The word felt strange, intimate. "He thinks you matter to me. In our world, it's the same thing. It makes you a target. It makes Jamie a target." I saw the flash of pure, maternal fear. It was sharper than any blade. She took a step back, grabbing the edge of a small desk, the one covered in glitter and construction paper. "Get away from me," she said, her voice low and fierce. "Get away from my son. I don't care what you're trying to do, what you're trying to reform. You've painted a target on my child's back. Leave, now." "I can't," I said. "If I leave, you're unprotected. He'll know I've distanced myself, and he'll grab you to force my hand. Right now, the only thing keeping you safe is me. He's testing my defenses. As long as I'm close, his men will hang back." She looked trapped. I had brought the storm to her door, and now I was telling her I was the only shelter. "What do you want?" she asked. "I have men outside your building. They'll be invisible. I have a car following you. You won't see it, but I need to be closer. I need a reason to be here." I looked around the room, the peeling paint, the worn-out books, the list of snack donors on the whiteboard. "I read about this school," I said, the lie forming as I spoke. "It's underfunded. I run my brother's charitable foundation now. The Angelo Romano Fund for Education. I'm going to make a donation, a significant one. New computers, art supplies, a new roof, whatever you need, and I'll need to visit to oversee the project as a sponsor." She saw it for what it was, a bribe, an excuse, a way for me to be near her and Jamie, to put my own security detail inside the walls. "You're using me," she said. "I'm using my money to protect you." I corrected her. "It's the only clean part of my life left. Elena, let me use it. Let me keep you safe." She looked at the small, cracked window, out at the gray Bronx street. She was thinking about her son, about 99-cent paintbrushes, about the leak in her ceiling, and about the men in the black sedan. "If I see one sign of trouble," she said, her voice trembling, "if you bring this world into these halls, I'll go to the police. The police can't protect you from Vitelli," I said, too harshly. I softened my voice. "They won't know he's coming until it's too late. I will." She nodded, not in agreement, in defeat. The next 2 weeks were a strange dance. I became a fixture at St. Jude's Elementary. I was Mr. Romano. The nice man from the foundation. I'd stand in the back of her classroom, wearing a suit that cost more than her car, and watch her teach. I watched her handle a fight over a red crayon with the patience of a saint. I watched her kneel to tie a small shoe, and I watched Jamie. He was a bright kid, small for his age, with his mother's dark hair and watchful eyes. He didn't come to me. He'd just look from a distance. I kept my men, Sal and the others, in the hallways. They were security consultants, checking the fire exits and the structural integrity. The teachers loved it. They felt safe. They had no idea why they were suddenly so safe. Elena and I, we barely spoke. We'd exchange polite nods. Mr. Romano, Miss Carter. But the tension was so thick I could taste it. I'd see her in the break room, her hands wrapped around a cheap styrofoam cup of coffee, and the guilt would eat at me. I had dragged this pure, good person into my filth. But then, one afternoon, I was leaving the principal's office after finalizing a check for $50,000. Jamie was in the hallway, sitting on the floor, his head down. I stopped. "You okay, kid?" He looked up. He'd been crying. "I lost my dinosaur. The good one. The T-Rex. Connor said he'd mess it up if I brought it again." I knew Connor. A bully in the 2nd grade. I sat down on the floor next to him. The hallway was too hot. The suit was too tight. "Bullies are easy," I said. Jamie wiped his nose. "No, they're not. They're mean." "They're easy," I repeated. "You know what they are? They're scared. Scared they're not strong, so they push, they yell, they take things. But it's just noise. You're not scared, are you?" Jamie thought about it. "Sometimes." "That's okay," I said. "Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you are scared, and you do the right thing anyway. You go get your dinosaur." He looked at me. "Mom says you're helping the school." "I am." "Are you a good guy?" The question from a 6-year-old hit me right in the chest. "I'm trying, Jamie. I'm trying very hard." Elena came around the corner. She stopped, watching us on the floor. Her face was a complicated mask of fear and something else. Gratitude. She didn't say anything. She just watched as I stood up, helped Jamie to his feet, and nudged him toward his classroom. That night, the real world came crashing back. I was in my penthouse, the one Angelo had built, all glass and steel overlooking the East River. It was sterile, empty. Sal brought me a secure envelope, no markings. Inside was a small, digital video player. I pressed play. It was grainy, dark footage, shot from a car. It showed the front of Elena's apartment building, then it zoomed to her 3rd-floor window. She was visible, passing by, holding Jamie's hand, then the camera panned down, to the street, to one of my men, sitting in an unmarked car, pretending to read a newspaper. The footage cut, a new scene, a steakhouse I recognized, Marco Vitelli. He was smiling at the camera, swirling a glass of red wine. He raised the glass, as if in a toast. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. The message was clear. "I see you. I see her. I see your men, and they can't protect her from me." The battle wasn't just for the docks anymore. He had found my weakness. He was going to use the child. I picked up my phone, a number I hadn't dialed in months. "Enzo," I said. "It's Luca. I know, but I need the old crew. Not for business. For protection, I need eyes on everything." I was breaking the promise I'd made to Angelo. I was calling them back. The men who didn't work in logistics. The men who specialized in problem removal. I was stepping back into the blood. But this time, it wasn't for territory. It wasn't for money. It was for a 6-year-old kid and his mother. I hid it from her. I had to. The next day at the school, I was just Mr. Romano. But I felt the change. The old coldness was back. The vigilance. I was leaving the school late. A snowstorm had blown in. Another one, I was checking the perimeter myself. One of Vitelli's scouts was parked 3 blocks down. Too bold. I walked up to the car. The kid inside, maybe 20, nearly jumped out of his skin. "Tell Marco," I said, tapping on his window, "that I'm not my brother. Tell him if he touches her, or the boy, this city won't be big enough for him to hide in." The kid sped off, sliding on the ice. When I got back to my car, my hand was bleeding. I'd gripped the door handle of his car so hard, a piece of old Sharp chrome had sliced my palm open. I drove to her place. I don't know why. I just needed to see the light in her window. She was outside, fumbling with her keys and 2 bags of groceries. The wind was whipping her hair across her face. "Elena!" She jumped, startled. "Luca, you scared me." I took the bags from her. "Let me?" We walked up the 3 flights of stairs in silence. At her door, she took the bags, and the light from the hallway fell on my hand. She stopped. "You're bleeding." I looked down. Dark. Red blood was seeping through my glove, dripping onto the worn linoleum floor. "It's nothing," I said, pulling my hand back. "No." She grabbed my wrist. Her touch was electric. She pulled me inside her tiny apartment, into the kitchen. Jamie was asleep on the couch. She sat me at the small table, ran a cloth under warm water, and came back. She gently peeled the soaked leather glove from my hand. "The cut was deep. You said you were leaving that life," she said, her voice quiet, but it cut through the silence. She wasn't angry. She was hurt. "You said you were just protecting." She started cleaning the cut. Her touch was so gentle. It ached. "This," she said, nodding at the blood. "This isn't protecting. This is it. Isn't it the world you said you were trying to escape?" I looked at her face. Inches from mine, the smell of her apartment like soap and cinnamon. "I can't leave it." I confessed. The truth. The real truth. I thought I could. For Angelo. But I can't. It won't let me go. She stopped dabbing at the wound. She looked into my eyes. "But," I said, my voice rough, "I can choose what I use it for. I can't make the darkness go away, Elena, but I can use it to keep your light safe. I can use it to protect you and Jamie. I can be the monster, so you don't have to." She held my gaze. She saw the killer I had been. She saw the man I wanted to be. And she saw the war raging between them. She wrapped a clean bandage around my hand, her fingers lingering on my skin. "What happens? Luca," she whispered, "when the monster you're using is the one that destroys you and me." I didn't have an answer. I just covered her hand with my good one. And in that tiny, warm kitchen, surrounded by a 6-year-old's drawings and the smell of a cheap dinner, the 2 worlds finally, truly collided. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was something else, a dangerous, fragile, terrifying trust. The call came at 2:15 in the afternoon. I was in my downtown office, staring at a shipping manifest, but my mind was in the Bronx. Sal burst in without knocking, his face the color of wet cement. "Boss, the school." I was on my feet before he finished. "What?" "The kid, Jamie, he's gone." The world went silent. The sounds of the city, the ticking clock, my own breathing, it all just stopped. "What do you mean, gone?" "Elena went to pick him up. The teacher said a man came, a new driver, said he was working for you. He used your name, Luca. They let him take the kid." I felt the blood drain from my face, replaced by something hot and black. It was a rage I hadn't felt in years. Not since Angelo. This was different. This was primal. "Get Enzo," I whispered. "Get everyone. I want every man we have on the street in the next 10 minutes. Find me Marco Vitelli. Find me that child." My phone buzzed on the desk. A blocked number. I snatched it up. "Romano, I see I finally have your full attention." Marco's voice slithered through the speaker. He sounded calm, amused. "He's a bright kid, looks just like his mother." I closed my eyes. I pictured Jamie, his small hands, the way he looked at me in the hall. If you touch him, Marco, spare me the tough guy act. Luca, you're the one who went soft. A school teacher. You really are your brother's, brother." He laughed. "You know what I want? The old ledgers. Your father's real books, the ones Angelo was too stupid to burn and you were too sentimental to." He was right. I had them. The key to every offshore account, every consulting fee, every ounce of leverage our family had held for 30 years. "Where?" I growled. "Brooklyn Bridge, midnight, the center pedestrian walkway. You, the books, I get them. You get the boy. Come with anyone. Come with a wire. Come with anything but the ledgers, and the kid takes a swim in the East River. It's a long way down. Luca." He hung up. I threw the phone against the wall. It shattered. By 6 o'clock, my penthouse was a war room. Enzo, Rico, a dozen of my father's most loyal soldiers' men I had put on ice were there. They were armed. They were ready. The air was thick with the smell of wet wool and steel. "He wants the bridge," I said, pointing to a map. "We won't give him the bridge. We take it. Rico, you're on the Brooklyn side. Enzo, Manhattan. I want shooters on the towers. When I give the signal, you light up his car. No one leaves that bridge but me and the boy." "And Vitelli?" Enzo asked, his hand on his sidearm. "He's mine," I said. Then the elevator doors opened. It was Elena. She must have used the private code I'd given her for emergencies. Her face was broken. It was a mask of sheer, unimaginable terror. Her eyes were red, swollen. She had been crying for hours. But when she saw the men, the guns, the map, the terror was replaced by a new kind of horror. What are you doing?" she whispered, walking into the center of the room. The men went silent. They looked away, uncomfortable. "I'm getting him back, Elena. With this," she gestured to the small arsenal on my dining table. "With a war, you're going to start a war in the middle of the city. I'm going to end one," I said, my voice flat and cold. She walked right up to me. She didn't care about the men. She didn't care about the guns. She put her hands on my chest. They were freezing. "Please," she begged, her voice cracking. "Please, Luca, not like this. He has your son, Elena, and you're going to get him back by becoming him, by becoming the monster." Tears were streaming down her face now, but she wasn't sobbing. She was fighting. "What happens when you do it? When you end him? What happens when Jamie sees that? When he sees the man who saved him is a killer? You'll save his life, Luca, but you'll break his soul, and mine, and yours. Please, there has to be another way." I looked into her eyes, the eyes that believed in kindness, the eyes that had seen the gun under my arm and hadn't run. She was right. She was right, and it infuriated me. Because she didn't understand, in my world, you met violence with more violence. That was the only way. But I looked at Jamie's face in my mind, the kid who asked me if I was a good guy. I closed my eyes. The black rage receded. Just a little. Replaced by a cold, sharp, and infinitely more dangerous calculation. "Enzo," I said. "Everyone, out, now." The men looked confused. "Boss, out," I roared. They vanished. When the elevator doors closed, I turned to Elena. "You want another way, I'll give you another way. But you have to trust me. Completely." At 11:30, the snow was coming down in thick, wet sheets. The Brooklyn Bridge was a ghost. The wind howled through the cables, a high-pitched scream. Visibility was near zero. Perfect. I walked alone, just like he'd said. In my hand, a leather satchel. It held the ledgers, the real ones. I saw them in the middle of the span. A black SUV, 4 men, plus Marco, and a small shape between them. My heart hammered against my ribs. "Luca!" Marco shouted over the wind, his voice triumphant. He was wearing a heavy coat, his face red from the cold. He held Jamie in front of him. One beefy arm wrapped around the boy's chest. Jamie was wearing his small blue coat. He was terrified, silent. "You came alone." "Good. You're not as dumb as your brother," Marco sneered. "Let the boy go," I said, and "The books," he shouted. "Throw them over, slowly." I did. I tossed the satchel. It skidded on the icy walkway and stopped at his feet. One of his men picked it up, opened it, and shined a flashlight inside. He nodded. Marco smiled, a wide, ugly grin. "It's all here, 30 years of Romano legitimacy, and it's all mine. We had a deal. Marco, the boy. The deal," Marco said, "was that you get the boy, but I never said when." He pulled Jamie tighter, and his other hand went inside his coat. "You see, Luca, I can't let you walk away. You betrayed the family. You betrayed your father's memory by trying to go clean. Angelo was weak. You're just a disappointment." He was going to do it. He was going to end me. And the boy, right here. "Jamie," I shouted, "close your eyes now." The boy squeezed his eyes shut, and in that instant, 2 things happened. First, I moved. I didn't go for my own gun. I lunged, low and fast, tackling Marco at the knees. We went down, a tangle of limbs on the ice. Jamie fell free. "Run! Jamie, run to me!" I screamed, grappling with Marco. Second, the world exploded, not in gunfire. In light, from both ends of the bridge, blinding white floodlights snapped on, cutting through the snow. The howl of the wind was drowned out by a dozen new sounds. Sirens, red and blue lights painted the snow. Bullhorns. FBI, put your hands in the air. You are surrounded. Marco's men froze, their guns half drawn, blinded, confused. Marco rolled off me, his face a mask of pure disbelief. He scrambled for his gun, but I kicked it away. It skidded over the edge and into the black water below. He looked at me. He looked at the federal agents, in full tactical gear, swarming the bridge from both sides. "You," he whispered, the realization dawning. "You called them." "You were Romano, you called the feds. I told you I wasn't my brother," I said, breathing hard, my body aching. "You traitor," he screamed, his voice cracking. "You betrayed your own world. You betrayed your family, your father. I just chose the world I want my son to live in," I roared back, the wind ripping the words from my mouth as the agents cuffed Marco's men. Marco, insane with rage, lunged at me one last time, and he was unarmed, but he was desperate. He caught me off guard. We slammed against the railing, and then I felt it. Not a punch, a sharp, cold, wet feeling in my side. I looked down. He'd had a blade strapped to his ankle, a small, thin stiletto. It was buried deep in my side. He tried to pull it out, to go again, but an agent was on him, tasing him. Marco convulsed and dropped. The world started to spin. The sirens, the lights, the snow. It was all blurring, like a watercolor painting left in the rain. Luca. Elena. She was running toward me. The feds must have let her through. How, Dad? I heard another voice. Jamie? He ran and wrapped his arms around my legs. Dad. He'd called me Dad. I looked down at the boy. I looked at Elena, her face a pale white circle in the storm. I tried to speak. I tried to tell her that it was over, that they were safe. The strength went out of my legs. The cold from the blade was spreading, replaced by a deep, heavy warmth. I pitched forward. Elena caught me. She was stronger than I thought. She eased me down onto the snow-covered ground. No, 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 Luca. She was sobbing, pressing her hands against the wound in my side. Stay with me. Stay with me. You can't leave. Not now. I looked up. The snow was falling on her face, mingling with her tears, the Christmas lights on the bridge's cables. Far above were blurred, red, green, blue. The sirens were fading. The war was over. I hadn't won with bullets. I'd won with a choice. I'd traded the ledgers, my entire family's dark past, to a special task force. In exchange for one thing, complete immunity and protection for Elena Carter and her son, I was free. I looked at Elena. She was talking to me, begging me, but I couldn't hear the words. I saw her, though. I saw the woman who believed in kindness, the woman who had run into a blizzard for a blind date, the woman who had faced me down in a room full of killers and begged me to be a better man. I realized, as the darkness started to creep in at the edges of my vision, that I had done it. I had become a good guy, and I realized I loved her. I loved this woman who had stumbled into my life by accident. I tried to smile. I think I did. And then the darkness won, and the sirens, and the snow, and her voice all faded to black. The first thing I heard was the beep. A steady, rhythmic, annoying beep. The second was the smell, antiseptic and floor wax. The third was the pain, a dull, hot throb in my side every time the beep echoed in my ears. I opened my eyes. The light was gray, the color of a New York winter sky, coming through a dirty window. The room was beige. Everything in it was beige, except for the man sitting in the corner. He wasn't Sal. He wasn't Enzo. He was wearing a cheap suit, and he had the patient, bored look of a cop. "Mr. Romano," he said, standing up. "Welcome back. You've been out for about 36 hours. I tried to sit up. A white-hot poker stabbed me in the ribs, and I fell back with a gasp. "Easy," the man said. "That blade missed your kidney by about half an inch. You were lucky." "Where?" My voice was a dry rasp. "A private room, St. Vincent's, under federal protection." He pulled his chair closer. "I'm Agent Miller. We spoke on the phone. Well, you spoke to my boss. We're very grateful for the ledgers. Marco Vitelli's entire organization is being dismantled as we speak. You did a good thing." I just stared at him. Elena the boy. "Safe," Miller said. "They're in protective custody, waiting for you to wake up." He leaned in. "Which brings us to the next step. Luca, you're a hero to us, but to your former associates, you're a traitor. You didn't just take out Vitelli. You handed us 30 years of your family's history. You broke the code." He was right. I hadn't just betrayed Marco. I had betrayed my father, my grandfather, the whole dark, bloody legacy. "So, here's the deal," Miller continued. "The U.S. government is prepared to offer you a new life, the full package. You, Miss Carter, and her son. We relocate you. New names, new identities. You could be John Peterson from Boise, a hardware store owner, a new, clean life, the one your brother wanted. You just disappear." He was offering me an escape, a clean, simple exit, the one Angelo had died trying to build. I could just vanish, take Elena and Jamie and go, be a normal man, a ghost. I thought about it. I really did. For about 10 seconds, I pictured a hardware store. I pictured a small house with a white picket fence. It was the American dream, and it felt like the biggest lie of all. Angelo didn't want to erase the name Romano. He wanted to clean it. "No," I rasped. Miller blinked. "No, son. You don't understand. The old guard, the commission, they won't send amateurs like Vitelli. They will send professionals. You will be hunted for the rest of your life." "No," I said again, my voice a little stronger. "No new name, no disappearing." Miller sighed, frustrated. He stood up. "Think about it. I'll be outside." He left. The door clicked shut. The room was silent. Just the beep, beep, beep of my heart. The door opened again. It wasn't Miller. It was Elena. Her face was pale. She had dark circles under her eyes. She was wearing the same clothes from the bridge. Or maybe she'd gone home and changed, I couldn't tell. She just looked shattered. She walked slowly to the bed, as if she was afraid I was a mirage. "Luca," she whispered. "Hey." I managed. She touched my hand, the one without the IV. Her fingers were cold, and then the dam broke. The tears she'd been holding back just fell. She didn't sob. She just cried, silently, her shoulders shaking. I thought you were," she whispered. "I'm hard to get rid of," I said. She sat in the chair Miller had left, never letting go of my hand. "The agent, the man outside, he told me about everything, the ledgers, how you traded it all. For us. It was the only way," I said. "The only way to end it, to keep you both safe. He told me about their offer, too," she said, her voice small. "The new names, a new life, somewhere safe." I watched her face. I saw the hope in her eyes, the hope for a normal life, the one she deserved, the one I had almost destroyed. "I can't take it, Elena," I said. Her head snapped up. The hope vanished, replaced by a confusion so deep it hurt to see. "What, Luca? Why, it's an escape. It's freedom. You would be safe. Jamie would be safe. We could be normal." "It's not freedom," I said, my voice finding its strength. "It's a cage. It's just a different kind of running, a different kind of lie." She pulled her hand back. Her eyes, still wet, flashed with something not anger, disappointment, the same disappointment I'd seen in her eyes on the street in the Bronx. "So you'll run again?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Just in a different way. You'll stay here. You'll stay Luca Romano and wait for them to come. You'll just bring that world right back to us, after everything we just did to escape it." "No," I said. I grabbed her hand. "No, I'm not running, and I'm not fighting. I'm finishing it." I fumbled for the call button. Miller came back in, looking wary. "Get me my lawyer," I said, "and I need a notary. Now." Miller looked at Elena, then at me. "For what? I'm not going into witness protection," I said, "but I'm also not keeping a dime. Every asset I have, the legitimate ones. The transport company, the real estate, everything Angelo and I built, I'm liquidating it. And all the other money, the accounts the feds don't even know about, the ones Marco didn't get, I'm giving it all away." Elena stared at me, her mouth open. "I want a foundation," I said. The idea forming, whole and perfect. I'm endowing a fund, the Jamie Carter Fund, for underprivileged kids, education, art supplies, whatever they need, all of it. Every last dirty dollar my father and his father ever made, it all gets washed. It all goes back. Miller was stunned. Romano, that's hundreds of millions. The old families, they will see that as the ultimate betrayal. You're not just a traitor. You're an apostate. You're spitting on their whole religion. They won't just hunt you. They'll make an example of you. Let them, I said. I'm not going to be John Peterson from Boise. I'm going to be Luca Romano, the man who gave it all back. I'm going to be the man my brother wanted to be. The man he... I nodded toward the door, toward where I knew Jamie was. Called Dad. Miller left, shaking his head. I was left alone with Elena. The room was thick with the weight of my decision. I was a dead man walking. Luca, she started. You have to leave me, I said, cutting her off. It was the hardest sentence I'd ever said. You have to. Take Jamie. Take the Fed's offer, disappear, be safe, forget me. I've put you in more danger. Not less. I'm a target. I can't have you standing next to me when they finally find me. She was silent for a long time. She just looked at my bandaged hand, the one she had cleaned in her kitchen. Then she looked at the bandages on my side. Then she stood up. She leaned over the bed. And she kissed me. It wasn't like in the movies. It wasn't passionate. It was desperate and final. It was a kiss that tasted like salt and antiseptic and fear. It was a promise. She pulled back. Her eyes were clear. The fear was gone. I'm a third-grade teacher. Luca, she said, her voice steady. I spend all day trying to teach children that the right choice is almost always the hardest one, that you don't run from bullies, that you face the world with kindness. Even when it's hard, she touched my face. No one is perfect, she whispered. God knows I'm not, and you are the most imperfect man I have ever met, but you just set yourself on fire to keep the world warm. You chose the right thing, the hardest thing. She took a deep breath. And that's why I choose you. I'm not leaving. I'm not running. I'm not taking my son away from the only man who's ever been a father to him. We go together. Wherever that is, we'll just be quiet. But we'll be together. Tears streamed down my face. I hadn't cried since Angelo's funeral. I didn't even know I didn't know what to say. I just held her hand. The next 24 hours were a blur. Lawyers, agents, signatures. My entire life, my father's entire life, signed away on a stack of documents. Then it was over. It was Christmas Eve. The hospital, under pressure from Miller, was discharging me. We didn't leave in an armored sedan. We left in a simple, anonymous blue car, driven by a federal agent. It was snowing. Again, a thick, clean blanket, covering the city's grime. I was bruised. I was broke. I was in more pain than I had ever been. I had no home. I had no name. Not really. I was just Luca. Jamie was in the back seat, asleep, his head in Elena's lap. She looked out the window as we crossed the bridge, leaving Manhattan behind. The city lights were blurred by the storm. It's beautiful, she whispered. I just looked at her. The blind date, the mix-up, the snowstorm. It had all been an accident. A miracle that had come so late. I'd stopped believing they existed, but it was real. I was alive, and I was free. The snow in Vermont is different. In New York, snow was an adversary. It was a problem for my trucks, a gray slush on the streets, an excuse for a delay. It was cold, and it covered up the city's filth for an hour or two before becoming part of it. Here, in this small town just north of Burlington, the snow is quiet. It just falls. It covers the world in a clean, white blanket, and it stays that way. It's been 1 year since the bridge, 1 year since I bled out on the ice, 1 year since I signed away an empire built on shadows. My new office smells like old paper, coffee grounds, and wood smoke. I own a bookstore. It's ridiculous. When I think about it, Luca Romano, the man who used to control the flow of 90% of the illicit goods on the East Coast, now spends his days recommending mystery novels to old ladies. The store isn't much. It's called Worth Waiting for Books Coffee. It was Elena's idea. a small, private joke between us that became our new reality. It's more of a local library than a business. We barely make a profit, but we're not in it for the profit. The front door opens, bringing a gust of cold air and a small boy. Mr. Luca. I look up from the accounts book. It's David, one of the local kids. Hey, David, you finished that book I gave you? Yeah, he says, stamping snow off his boots. It was okay. The dragon was cool, but I got stuck on the long words. The long words are where they hide the best secrets, I say. Standing up, the scar in my side, just above my hip, pulls tight. It always does when the temperature drops below 20. It's a good reminder. Come on, let's see if we can find them. I spend the next hour with him in the children's section, sounding out words, me, a man who used to break men for mispronouncing a name. Now, I'm teaching a 7-year-old how to read adventure. This is my life now. It's small, it's quiet, and it's real. I close the shop at 5, the sky already a deep, bruised purple. I walk the 4 blocks to our apartment. We rent the top floor of an old Victorian house. It's drafty, and the pipes make noise, but it's home. I open the door, and the smell of roasting chicken and garlic hits me. Elena is in the kitchen, her hair tied up, a smudge of flour on her cheek. She's humming. She took a job at the local elementary school, working with special needs kids, the ones everyone else gives up on. She's a natural. Hey, I say, wrapping my arms around her from behind. She leans back against my chest. Hey, yourself. Hard day at the office. Brutal, I say, kissing her neck. Had a tough negotiation with a second grader over the price of a used paperback. He cleaned me out. She laughs. It's the sound I live for. Jamie's in his room, struggling with math. He's being quiet. Go see. I walk down the short hall. The door is open. Jamie, 7 now, is lying on his stomach on the floor, pencil in hand, staring at a worksheet like it personally offended him. This is stupid, he announces to the carpet. Math isn't stupid, I say, leaning against the door frame. It's just particular. He looks up. Dad, I don't get it. Why do I have to borrow? It's not my number. Why can't the 7 just be a 17? Dad. He'd screamed it on the bridge, a word born of pure terror. But in the months that followed, it became something else. It became normal. It became mine. The first time he said it just like this. Casual and complaining over homework, my knees almost buckled. It's a title, a name, the only one I care about anymore. Because, I say, sitting on the floor next to him, you have to follow the rules. Come on, let's look at it. We aren't rich. The hundreds of millions, every last dirty cent is gone. It's in the Jamie Carter Fund, building schools in the Bronx, buying art supplies, paying for teachers like Elena. All I kept was enough to start over. Enough for a deposit on this apartment and the lease for the shop. It's enough. That night, the nightmares come. They're not as frequent as they used to be, but they still come. The blizzard. The cold steel of Marco's blade, the sound of Angelo's voice, telling me I failed him. I wake up tangled in the sheets, my heart hammering, the scar on my side burning. Luca. Elena's hand is on my chest. I'm breathing hard. You're here, she whispers in the dark. You're safe. It's just the past. It's not real. I turn and pull her to me, burying my face in her hair. It feels real. I know, she says, her voice sleepy but strong. But this is real. The snow, this bed, Jamie in the next room, this is what you built. Now, come back to sleep. And I do. I face the ghosts, and I let them go. A few days later, the bell on the shop door rings. It's almost closing time. The snow coming down hard. I don't look up, expecting David again. It's a nice place you got here, boss. I freeze. My hand, which was stacking books, stops. I know that voice. I look up. It's Sal. He looks older, thinner. He's wearing a New York suit that looks all wrong in my quiet, dusty shop. Sal, I say. My voice is steady. It's been a long time. A year, he says, his eyes darting around. He looks at the children's section, at the small coffee counter. A year is a long time. You look good. Luca, healthy. I'm quiet, Sal. That's all. He walks closer, running a hand over a wooden table. I was just in the area. Thought I'd stop by. You're a long way from home just to stop by. Sal, what is it? He sighs, the old New York weariness settling on him. Just wanted you to know, there's noise. Back home, Marco Vitelli is in a supermax for the rest of his natural life. But the commission, they don't like what you did. Giving that money away, it was a statement. They put Marco's cousin, Rico, in his spot. He's not smart, like Marco. He's just angry. He's been asking questions about Vermont. The old coldness tries to find me, the ice in the veins, but it's not there. Not anymore. So, the past is still knocking, I say. It's not knocking, boss, Sal says, his voice low. It's threatening. I'm just saying watch your back. These guys, they don't open bookstores. I look past Sal, out the window. The snow is falling on the quiet main street. I see the lights of the town Christmas tree. I think of Elena. I think of Jamie. I turn back to Sal, and I smile, a real smile. I appreciate you coming, Sal. I really do. But I'm not afraid. Luca, you're not hearing me. Rico is... No, you're not hearing me, I say. I walk over to my small desk, pick up a picture of Jamie and me from a fishing trip last summer. The boy holding a tiny fish, both of us grinning. If they come here, I say, my voice quiet, they won't find who they're looking for. They're looking for Luca Romano, the man who ran the docks, the man who sat in the back of Tre Carone, the killer. I put the picture down. That man is gone. He died on the Brooklyn Bridge. If they come here, they're going to find a father. They're going to find a man who teaches kids how to read. They're going to find a man who is protecting his family. I look Sal dead in the eyes. And you know, Sal, there is nothing on this earth more dangerous than that. He holds my gaze. He sees it. The steel is still there, but it's been reforged. It's not for power anymore. It's for protection. He nods, understanding. Be safe, Luca, he says. He puts his hand on my shoulder, a final goodbye, and walks out of the shop, disappearing into the snow. That night, it's Christmas Eve, 1 year to the day from our accidental date. We're in the living room, the three of us, in front of a small, lopsided tree that Jamie picked out. We don't have many presents, a few books, a new coat for Jamie, a necklace for Elena that cost me almost nothing. We're sitting on the floor, the lights of the tree blinking, the apartment warm. Elena is leaning her head on my shoulder. Jamie is asleep, his head in her lap. We're not rich. We're not powerful. We're not even, by New York standards, safe, but we're here. We're together. I look out the window. The snow is falling, thick and white, across the street. My shop is dark, but the small neon sign I had made is lit up. Worth waiting for. I finally understand what it means. It wasn't about me waiting for Elena at the restaurant. It wasn't about her waiting for a nice guy. It was about this peace. The one thing my money and my guns could never buy. The one thing Angelo died for. It was worth the wait. It was worth everything. We didn't get a medal. We didn't get a parade. About 3 months after Sal's visit, long after the snow had melted and the Vermont spring had turned the world an almost violent shade of green, I got a letter. It came to the bookstore. A plain, white government envelope. No return address. Inside, there was no thank you. There was just a single, photocopied sheet. It was a case file cover page. Case file 774B Romano, L. And at the bottom, a heavy black stamp. Closed. Next to it, someone had written 2 words in blue ink. Status redeemed. Redeemed. I stared at that word for a long time. It wasn't a pardon. It wasn't forgiveness. It was just an acknowledgement. A line drawn in the sand. I found out, weeks later, in a small article buried on page 20 of the Times, that Marco Vitelli had pleaded guilty to a list of charges so long it took up 2 columns. He was sent to a Supermax facility in Colorado. He would die there. The Romano organization, the paper said, was officially dismantled, its assets seized by the federal government. It was over. The empire was dust. That summer, just as the heat settled in, another ghost walked in. The bell on the shop door rang. I looked up from the register, and my heart just stopped. It was Isabella, my sister. She hadn't seen me since that night, a lifetime ago, when I'd stormed out of the restaurant to go on her nice blind date. She stood in the doorway of my dusty, quiet bookstore, wearing a white linen dress that probably cost more than my month's rent. She looked lost. "Luca," she whispered. I just nodded. I couldn't speak. "What do you say to the sister whose family you dismantled?" She walked inside, slowly. Her eyes took in everything. The worn wooden floors, the children's section with its bright, painted mural that Elena and Jamie had done, the smell of old paper and coffee. "This is," she started, "this is where you live. This is where I work," I said, my voice rough. "We live upstairs." She reached out and touched the spine of a book. "They're calling you a traitor. Back home. The rat Romano. The man who burned his own family to the ground." "Maybe they're right," I said. She turned to face me. Her eyes were filled with tears. But she was smiling. It was the first time I'd seen her really smile in maybe a decade. "I came to see the traitor," she said. "I don't know why. I guess I came to hate you." She looked past me, through the big front window, across the street in the town square. Elena was pushing Jamie on a swing. He was laughing, that high, bright sound that was the new soundtrack of my life. Isabella watched them. She watched my wife, we'd signed the papers at the courthouse 2 months ago, and my son. She turned back to me, and the tears finally fell. "But you're not him." "You're not the man I knew. You did it, Luca. You actually did it. You didn't just reform. You escaped. You did what Angelo couldn't." She put her hand on my cheek. "You're not the Romano of the shadows anymore. Luca, you're a father. You're a man of the light." She stayed for dinner. It was strange, but good. She and Elena talked, not about me, not about New York. They talked about teaching, about books. When she left the next morning, she hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "Don't ever come back, Luca," she whispered. "There's nothing for you there. Live. Just live." Life settled into a rhythm, a quiet, peaceful rhythm. Elena started a new program at her school. It wasn't just for special needs kids. It was for the ones who came from hard places, as she put it, the ones with anger in their eyes. She called it the kindness class. I gave her a hard time about the name. Just a little. Kindness in this world. Elena, it's not exactly armor. She was grading papers at our small kitchen table. She looked up, her gaze steady. "The one that had stopped me in my tracks in that restaurant, it's not armor, Luca," she said softly. "It's a weapon. It's about teaching them how to be good, even when the world is cruel. That's the only way to win. You, of all people, should know that." She was right. I knew. One day, Jamie would ask. He was 7. Soon he'd be 17, and he'd be curious. He'd find the articles. He'd type Luca Romano into a search engine, and a world of darkness would come pouring out. I couldn't protect him from my past, not forever. So, one night, late, after the shop was closed and the snow had begun to fall again, I sat down, I took out a pen and a blank journal. I started to write him a letter, one he wouldn't read for another 10 years. Jamie. I wrote. "By the time you read this, you'll have questions. You'll know my name, the one I had before I was your dad. You'll read about New York. You'll read about Marco Vitelli. You'll read about the bridge. I need you to know the truth. I was not a good man. I was born into a world of shadows, a world that values power over people, a world that mistakes fear for respect. I did things, I was a part of things that I will carry with me every day for the rest of my life. I can't undo them. I can't erase them. I tell you this not to scare you or to make you ashamed. I tell you this because you are my son, and you have to know that the world is a hard place. It will try to make you hard. It will try to make you cruel. It will tell you that kindness is weakness and that you have to take what you want. Don't listen. Your mother, she saved my life. Not on that bridge. She saved it in that restaurant. She walked in, late and scared, and she believed in goodness. She taught me that kindness isn't a weakness. It's the strongest thing in the world. It's the hardest choice, and it's the only one that matters. I spent my whole life fighting for things that didn't matter. Money, territory, pride. The only fight that ever meant anything was the fight for you. Don't ever be afraid to fight, son. But know what you're fighting for. You don't fight for pride. You don't fight for anger. Sometimes you have to fight to protect the good, gentle things in this world. That's the only war worth fighting. Winter came again. Deep and cold. Jamie was 8. The snow was piled 3 feet high on the sides of the empty access road. I pulled my old truck over. You ready? His eyes went wide. For real, for real. I put him on my lap, behind the wheel. His small, gloved hands gripped the top of the wheel. My hands covered his. I worked the pedals. He steered. It's shaky. Dad, he yelled, laughing as the truck's back end fishtailed a little on the packed snow. It's supposed to be shaky, I said, my voice rough. That's how you know you're moving. Just keep your eyes up. Look where you want to go. Not at the snow right in front of you. Look at the road. The truck was old. The heater barely worked, but inside that cab, with his small, warm body pressed against mine, his laughter filling the cold air, it was the safest I had ever been. That night, I closed the shop. Elena and Jamie met me on the sidewalk. Jamie was vibrating, talking a mile a minute about how he drove the truck. He's 8. Luca, Elena said, trying to look stern, but her eyes were smiling. He's a natural, I said, putting my arm around her, pulling her close. We stood there for a minute, the 3 of us. The snow was falling, soft and silent, catching in her hair, dusting Jamie's shoulders. The whole town was quiet. I looked across the street at my little shop, the sign I'd hung, the one that started as a joke. It was glowing, a warm light against the blue twilight, worth waiting for. I thought about that night, 2 years ago, the blind date, the mistake, the woman who had run into my life an hour late, freezing cold and full of a naive belief in kindness. Sometimes, love doesn't arrive on time. Sometimes, it shows up at the wrong place, in the wrong world, in the middle of a war. But if you're brave enough to see it, if you dare to wait for, it doesn't just change you, it fixes everything. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from, so please leave a comment below. Share your thoughts and let's connect. Don't forget to subscribe to Mafia Boss Stories. Like this video, and if you enjoyed this journey, please hit that hype button. It helps more people find this story.